Hi, it's Jason Gorman here from Codemanship with a brief sort of preview of some of the responses I've been getting from this survey, this mini survey on formal methods and agile software development, people's experiences and attitudes towards them. It's not a scientific survey by any stretch of the imagination, and there are of course flaws in the data and flaws in the design of the survey, but it's just designed to give me a little bit of direction on some personal research I'm doing at the moment. So first of all, many thanks to everyone who did respond, and hopefully I'll get more responses in the next week or two and a bit more data, especially from people with formal methods experience, because I've had only a dozen or more, really, maybe 15 responses from people who claim to have formal methods experience of any real depth. So I'd like a few more responses from people from that background. Okay, so what I'm going to do is going to go through some of the answers to the responses to the questions in the survey and just quickly discuss them. So the first question was, which of these best describes your experience with formal methods? And there were several choices here. There's about a quarter of the people who responded, which was everyone for this question, are aware of formal methods but have not learned to use them, so they haven't really learnt Z or whatever it is. A very small minority have actually applied them in any real depth, less than 5%. A large number of people have applied them in their work life on real projects, but not regularly. So maybe in the past they've used them, so not in-depth experience necessarily. Quite a large chunk of people have learnt formal methods but have never applied them on a real project, and a similarly large chunk of people have never heard of formal methods, don't know what they are. Okay, so that's not necessarily of interest in itself, but it does suggest that the people out of those people that responded, if we just take the people that have learnt formal methods and the people that have applied them, more people have learnt formal methods but not applied them than have learnt them and applied them. So that's kind of interesting. Right. In terms of applications, we'd expect that most people, if they've used formal methods, would have done formal specification, because you can't really do verification and code generation without specification. Although interestingly, some of the respondents claimed that they did. So that would be interesting to explore. But on the whole, people have used languages like Z or the object constraint language or something like that to specify systems, or practice design by contract, or done some kind of specification exercise. Some of the responses, as we'll see in a second, were a little odd and suggested that maybe in some people's minds they're not quite clear about what I meant by formal methods or what formal methods means. So specification, the most popular use of formal methods, but verification not that far behind. Let's face it, if you're going to go to the trouble of specifying, you want to get some value, so verification seems the obvious step, and a small number of respondents have had some experience using these specs for code generation, but we'll talk about that in a minute. Right, where do people learn about formal methods? Well, the majority learn at university or college. A smaller number of people learn in their own time by reading books or going on courses, and a very small number, around 13%, actually learnt formal methods because it was required of them by an employer. So it's mostly book-based learning, and it's mostly university or school-based learning. Okay, so this question is designed to sort of give me a feel for what people think they mean by formal methods. And as you can see, some of the responses, for example, some people have listed things like CMMI and vModel and Prince2 and the Unified Process RUP, and UML and stuff like that, Enterprise Architect, which is quite a nice tool for UML diagrams, but is by no means a formal specification tool. Other people talk about Z and state machines and predicate languages and so on and so forth. So they're obviously talking about what I mean by formal methods, which is mathematical techniques for specification and verification and so on. But a small number of people maybe have got the wrong end of the stick and think I mean heavyweight document-driven processes or model-driven, which I don't necessarily mean. Although there is some overlap, obviously, between model-driven and formal spec, as I know myself. Right. Attitudes to formal methods. So around 18% of people who responded to this felt that formal methods had no real value on the majority of projects, and that they were of theoretical interest only. A larger chunk, unsurprisingly, felt that formal methods were useful when the software is safety critical. Not surprising, really. A smaller number, a much smaller number, felt that formal methods had wider applications than that. And quite a large number of people had no opinion on the use of formal methods, quite possibly an overlap there with the people who don't know what formal methods are. Okay, right, on to Agile. So experiences with Agile are quite different. The majority of respondents had some experience, the vast majority had some experience, and a pretty large majority, 84%, had fairly deep experience of Agile software development. Only 2 of the respondents had heard of Agile or were aware of it, but had not really learned any of the techniques. And nobody asked what is Agile, which was one of the options. Where do people learn about Agile software development? Again, quite a different picture to formal methods. The vast majority learn in their own time under their own steam, about 90%, and also quite a large chunk are learning on the job. And as an Agile coach, I have experience of this, of working with teams where a company has decided, an employer has decided that Agile is the way forward. So quite a different picture here. It's mostly on-the-job learning, and it's mostly self-directed learning, and very little learning at university or college. Agile practices and tools. Okay, so people have got a lot more to say about this than the respondents on formal methods. We can see the usual mixes here of extreme programming, Scrum, Kanban. A few people who are only mentioning the management practices, a few people who only mention the technical practices. Refactoring gets the occasional mention, which is encouraging to see, but it's a fair spread, and it gives me an indication that this is fairly deep experience of Agile, and that they're not, pardon my French, they're not bullshitting me. It really is Agile software development and not their misunderstanding of it. Okay. Agile attitudes. So a very, very tiny minority of 1% thinks that Agile is just a fad and should only be used on projects you don't care about. Interestingly, this was not someone who claimed to have formal methods experience or formal methods education. Agile methods can be successfully applied to projects where quality and reliability are not important. So again, only 1%, and it was a different person, only 1% felt that if quality is important, then Agile is not appropriate. A larger chunk of people felt that Agile could take you all the way up to, say, sort of safety critical and wasn't necessarily appropriate beyond that. But by far the biggest majority, 80%, felt that Agile applied to pretty much any kind of project and was in no way compatible with the formal techniques you would use for producing high integrity or safety critical software. And only a very small minority had no opinion or didn't respond. Okay, and finally a little bit of interpretation. Now, what I've done is I've taken a statistic from the people that claim to have had real-world experience applying formal methods and seen how they responded to the attitudes towards Agile question. And this is interesting. 75% of them responded that they felt that Agile techniques were in no way compatible with formal techniques and the production of high-integrity software. That's very interesting indeed. Only a small minority, 25%, felt that Agile was not appropriate for safety critical. So those are the results so far. Lots more looking at it and digging and thinking to be done, and at some point in the next few weeks I'll publish all of this. I'll publish the raw data. Hopefully we'll have had some more responses. I'll publish the raw data and publish some interpretation. You can have a look at yourself, and this will give me some direction for some more investigation that I want to do in the beginning of next year. Thank you very much.